Hello, I'm Lindsay Bittler, and welcome to this edition of TUTV's original series, Temple Flashback. On this show, we talk to successful alumni about their careers, and of course, their time at Temple. Today on the show, we're privileged to be talking to a Temple alum who produces for national television. Matt Sitkoff is a segment and field producer for NHL Live, which airs on the NHL Network. A former sports reporter for Temple Update, a lifelong hockey fan, Matt now has a self-described dream job. I'm pleased to welcome to the show Mr. Matt Sitkoff.
Well, thank you very much for having me today,
Thanks
Lindsay.
for joining us. And I want to get right into the meat of what you do. You're a producer for a national TV network. Describe to us what you do on a daily basis.
Oh, well, a daily basis, pretty much we're getting into work. We're trying to figure out what to cover for the day. So part of my job as a producer is trying to distinguish what we should do. What should we talk about? I mean, there's so much going on in the National Hockey League every night. So we kind of have to distinguish, all right, we're going to talk about that game. We're going to talk about this game. We're going to talk about this injury. We're going to talk about, this goalie, how good he's been. And then we're going to try to distinguish what order we should talk about them in, and should we get any guests to talk about this specific, player or team. So pretty much we kind of just run down, as you know from, TV, we take a rundown of what events that we should be kind of discussing on a daily basis. So I guess it's my job to kind of describe, to see what's interesting, what's not, what should our fans of hockey, what do they want to hear, what do they want us to talk about. And, for me, it's a really fun job and really cool to just kind of sit back and say, wow, I get paid to talk about hockey? Sure, I'll do that every day.
How do you know and how do you kind of determine what really the fans want to see and what actually goes into the content of your shows?
Well, the contents of our shows for the NHL Live, which is kind of the main show that I work on, is pretty much the content we're going to go on what's going to be the big matchup of the night. I mean, everyone knows that in the National Hockey League, there's always going to be a huge matchup of the night. So we kind of establish that as our main topic of the day. And then we go and say, all right, who can we get interesting to talk about this stuff? So then we go out and we say, all right, let's get this writer, let's get this announcer, let's get this player to talk about it who pretty much experienced it. So that's pretty much how we go about it. And I think for us, if you know hockey and you love hockey, you know kind of what, I would say it's tough, but I would say like for us, we are fans of the game. I think if you want to be in the sports industry, you need to be a fan of the game. You need to know what kind of fans want to hear, fans want to say. So I think for us, it's easy because all of us are fans of the game, and I think that kind of helps us in determining, all right, if I want to hear about it, I'm sure the fans out there want to hear about it.
Right, and so do you always use, the mindset of kind of being a fan or knowing what the fans want when you're producing your shows? Is that important in the sports industry specifically?
I think the sports industry it's really important because I think that's what runs it. I think what runs the sports industry are the fans, people that watch it, people that go to games, people that pay all those monies to see the game, to see those players, to see those athletes. I think if you aren't a fan or don't have that passion, because I think that's where the sports industry and TV sports industry is having that passion for the game. I've always said that, I wake up in the morning and I want to go to work. And I think when you have that kind of passion for what you're doing and have that kind of passion for a certain sport or a sport before when I didn't just do one sport, I think that helps. And I think that is a key component to being successful in the sports industry is having that passion. And I think the best part of it is that you have to know where the line is because there is fans, and that's why fans are fans, and producers and talent are talent. So I think you kind of have to find that line, and I think that's the important part is having that passion, but knowing where that line is to say, all right, I'm maybe being a little bit too much of a fan, step back and be kind of impartial. How
do you separate being impartial when you're producing the shows? How do you personally find that line, or even let's say define that line?
Yeah, I think for me personally, I think it's really easy just because I've done it, for a couple of years now. And, I think it was a little bit harder in the beginning. But I think, that line is just knowing where you're kind of almost saying to yourself, is this too much? Is this too much? Is this too much going overboard? Is this too much? Because I think, the difference between passion and fanaticism is, knowing where that line is. And I think for me, it was tough in the beginning, because I think anything is, right? It's tough in the beginning. But then once you kind of find it and know that this is your line, and this is kind of like where you say, all right, this happened and I was pretty passionate about it, and I call it the step back moment. I think that's always the key, the step back moment. It's take a deep breath, step back, and say to yourself, all right, do I really want to say this? Do I really want this for my opinions to come across that way? Because I think opinions are important in this industry. Opinions are definitely important. But I think the opinions that you bring to the table have to have meaning behind them. So that's where you take that step back moment and you say, all right, does this opinion have any sort of credence behind it? And I think that's kind of where I've kind of taken my career to say, all right, I got to have that step back moment. Am I being a fan, or am I being a good producer? And I think that's what makes a good producer, is knowing that line.
Right, and I know you grew up a Flyers fan, and you're from just outside the Philadelphia, growing up and everything. But when Philadelphia plays, does that make it extra difficult when you're producing, when the Flyers are involved?
No, I'm a fan of all 30 teams. That's what that's what I have to say, right? No, I don't find it hard, because I think for me, being a professional is most important. And I think I want people who watch this network or watch my stuff to feel like I put thought into it, and I put passion into it, and I put extra effort into it. And I don't want them to think, oh, he just did it because he's a Flyers fan, or he's a this fan, or he's that fan. It's tough, but I think for me, the most important thing is being professional and being good at what I do, and finding those instances of making sure that you're not putting that kind of stuff is a good way to be professional about what you're doing, because I really like what I'm doing, and I really do enjoy telling stories and enjoy giving people information, and and if I don't do that in a professional way, then I think I'm doing a disservice to both the people that watch my program and the people that follow what I do.
I know that's clear, and you have that defined in the television sense, but I know you're also active on Twitter, and social media is becoming such a big part of the sports industry and the sports media and sports television. So I know you have an active Twitter account. Are there different rules there on Twitter, or do you try to maintain the same ideas when you are producing television?
Yeah, I think you have to. I think social media in our industry, in our sport, the NHL is huge. I think we have all 30 NHL teams that tweet out updates and ticket information and great ways to get fans to watch a game together with other fans that are in the area. We have, I believe, over 240 active NHL players who tweet, which is great for the sport, because I think as fans, we want to know what's going through those. I mean, that's why we watch. You want to go what is going through the heads of our great professional athletes. And as a producer, I think for me, I use it as a good way to let people know when my show's on. I also produce NHL Network Plays the Week, which is a fun show for people, and I want to make sure it's a very interactive show, because we do allow fans to kind of vote on their favorite plays. So I use it that way, and I think you definitely have to know that you're in a public forum, and I use it to be informative. I think for me, the more informative I can be for a hockey fan, the better that I'm servicing them, because we're not up to the same level as some of the other professional sports of I guess ratings and this or that, but we're always up to the point of fans. So we have the same amount of fans. So I want to make sure I'm informative to them, and I use that kind of outlet to do it that way. And I make sure to be careful about that, because I know everyone's watching, right?
Yes. Well, tell everybody your actual Twitter handle.
Oh, sure. You guys can follow me at Sitkoff, MSITKOFF. Please follow me if you want hockey information or any other Philly sports, I kind of put that in there, like, today, going to the Phillies home opener and stuff. Even though I probably just dated the show. Sorry, guys. You can edit that one in post.
Okay, so you did grow up a Flyers fan. Let's go back all the way to childhood. Tell me how you got involved in hockey and how you kind of realized that this was something that you really enjoyed watching and being a fan of.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was, I lucked out that around my neighborhood, everyone was into hockey. So I got in at a young age, started skating when I was about 2 or 3. Just went to like the local ice skating rinks as far as I remember that day. No, don't remember that day. But I think for me also, I was lucky in the 1980s, end of the 1980s, early 90s. I'm dating myself, right? But Flyers were good, and they made some cup runs, and for me, they had a lot of characters that you could really kind of really just love, like Ron Hextall, like Ron Sutter. And then in the early 90s, they had Eric Lindros, which everyone was a fan of. It was such a, really, I said, save this organization because, people had so much interest in him. He was the Sidney Crosby before Sidney Crosby was Sidney Crosby. And, I think that kind of helped. And for me, it was just, like I said, I lucked out that my neighborhood people were into hockey. We were playing street hockey after every day of school down in our circle. I got to play high school hockey, which was great, playing for your school and wearing your school colors and having all your friends in the stadium cheering you on. And then I was lucky enough to play at Temple here. So, for me, it was just always something that I was interested in and had a pure love for. Anytime I put on a pair of skates, I felt like really good. And anytime I was out on the ice and feeling those skates stop and start and the puck on your hand, it felt amazing. And I was really lucky to kind of continue to play. And my parents were very supportive of it, even though it's a very violent sport. And my shoulder doesn't really move all the way up anymore, and had 2.5 concussions. And so I think for that kind of stuff, and my parents to be supportive in a sport that is kind of very tough to play. I think for that, it always was very easy for me to say it was enjoyable and loved doing.
And I know Exton is a little bit of a smaller town, and you went to Downingtown High School. So how did you end up coming from that small of a town to playing hockey at Temple University in the big city of Philadelphia?
Well, I think for me, I always kind of knew I wanted to go to a city school, and it made my dad went to Temple, so I grew up on this campus. We went to see Mark Macon play, and Eddie Jones and Aaron McKee, and all at McGonigal Hall, and it was always a great time for me. And I was really lucky. I knew early that I wanted to do sports broadcasting. I knew. I had this feeling that this was something I was good at. This is something that I want to do. I had good mentors. Wally Kennedy was one of my best mentors. I know he taught here for a little bit and was on a local talk show. And I watched him for a day in Philadelphia when I was in high school as my high school senior project. And I looked at the industry that was Philadelphia, the industry of sports television, the industry of the teams and how they're covered so heavily here. And I had some good connections to some of the other stations, Fox and ABC and Comcast Sportsnet. And I said, you know what? I want to go to some place where I'm comfortable, where I feel like I can really take my skills and move them to the next level. And there was nothing better than Temple University for me. They had all the right facilities, as we can see here, great facilities, right? And all the right teachers. Met a couple teachers before I came here. And the right market. It was really a market that I felt like I could succeed in because they had the opportunities, because Temple's name had for internships, because I was told internship when I got here. And because Temple has such a successful history of great interns, it helped me get my internships that I wanted, and and I knew that because of the reputation Temple has, and because of the great facilities and the teachers and everything, and it was a really easy decision actually, which was good for me because I knew I wanted to go to City and Philadelphia, right? City of brotherly love. Can't get better.
Yes. And when you actually came to Temple, I know that you got involved right away, diving into a lot of the programs and Temple Update and Temple News. So let's talk about that and what you've actually did while you were here at Temple.
Yeah, I didn't sleep a lot, and I surprisingly didn't party a lot because I was working more. But I immediately day one knew I needed to get involved. Went to the athletic department. Did marketing for them for a couple semesters, and day one got into Temple News because I knew that was kind of the first. They were really looking for people. It was the first way to get my teeth wet into being in a press box, into being at the games, into how to interview a person, how to tell a story, and had some great mentors there. Josh Cornfield, Scott Shafitz, some great people that really took me under their wings, and where I actually got to cover our great football team, which was really fun. Yeah, we weren't the same as we are now, but but it was great because I think that's where you learn. You learn from a team that doesn't win a lot of games and still has a story to tell. And so I did Temple News for all 4 years I was here, till where I actually was the football beat writer my last 2 years. So I covered them on a daily basis. My junior year, then that's when I got involved in Temple Update, where I got to be the sports anchor. So can't you tell? I'm so comfortable on camera. Can't you tell that I'm a
it's
sports
actually
anchor?
Funny, Matt, because we have a reel of your tape of your Temple Update days.
They actually keep those things in VHS?
Yeah, so we're going to take a look right now at some of Matt on Temple Update.
Good evening, everyone. With a look at the ins and outs of Philadelphia sports, I'm Matt Sitkoff. On today's show, we'll update you about the hockey team that just doesn't lose. But first, a big NFC matchup between the Birds and the Boys. It was supposed to be a day of doom and gloom for the Temple football. Instead, it was their best effort of the season. The Owls took on 12th-ranked Virginia Tech and almost pulled off a big upset. What's worse to deal with, 2 feet of snow or the best team in the NHL? Well, the Boston Bruins fans had to deal with both tonight. The Flyers, still unbeaten at home, took their show on the road. Jeff Hackett facing one of his former teams a day after Robert Ashby won his former team. First period, Patrice Bergeron on the power play, feeds it to Sergei Samsonov, who bangs it home. Bruins fans loving it, Hitchcock not happy.
Through all of her trials and tribulations, Yamit has had a successful 4 years for Temple volleyball, and now trying to end it on a high note. Reporting for Temple Update, I'm Matt Sitkoff.
The big tune-up, Bill Parcells, came in the game with a 10-7 career record against the Eagles, and a win by the defending NFC East champs would clinch a playoff spot for the 4th consecutive years. The Cowboys, coming off a Thanksgiving nightmare with the extra refs' help, 4th quarter's Eagles up 19-10. First and goal, Donovan McNabb finds L.J. Smith for his first career touchdown. Birds up 26-10. Then the Eagles put the game away. Correll Buckholder, under 2 minutes left, busts through the line. He will go 64 yards to the house. The Eagles hand the Cowboys their 3rd loss in the last 4 games. Eagles win 36-10.
It's Sweet Home Alabama for Temple's head football coach Bobby Wallace, as he will be part of the 2004 inductees into the Alabama Hall of Fame. He is one of 8 members to be enshrined this year. For Wallace, who has spent 14 years of his life in the South, this is something to be treasured.
It's quite an honor. There's a lot of tradition in Alabama, college sports, especially college football, and a lot of great coaches and players have all been inducted into the Hall of Fame, and to join them is an honor.
Where the skies are so blue, it is truly hometown for the coach.
14 years of my adult life have been in the state of Alabama, and my wife's from Alabama, and kids were all born and grew up in Alabama, so primarily, I guess when I think of home, it's kind of hard to balance which one's home, Mississippi or Alabama.
Bobby Wallace roamed the North Alabama sidelines for 10 years. There he won 3 straight national championships. During those 3 seasons, his teams were 41-1. Those are memories he'll never forget.
It was a great football game and a great atmosphere, and then of course when all the stands emptied onto the field, I mean it's a great feeling, and then to win it 2 more years and 3 years in a row and do something to make history, I was just part of it. Had great players, great coaches, and great support at the university.
Support that makes a person remember their roots. And on May 13th, Wallace will say, "Oh, I'm coming home to you."
Ice hockey is a sport built on toughness and strength. Those elements are a big part of sled hockey. But what is sled hockey?
Disabled kids who can't play erect hockey, and they have to sit down. And then there is also in this district a special hockey program for the mentally challenged who can stand erect and play hockey. Autistic children, children with Down syndrome, and the like.
The rules are similar to those of ice hockey, except that these competitors are strapped into small sleds. The players have 2 short sticks with metal picks on one end and a hockey blade on the other. Adults to kids love this amazing sport.
Sled hockey, it's a great experience for me and for lots of other children, because it's like a sport where you don't have to be all serious about. You can just hang loose and be cool.
Sled hockey is a chance for me to go out and do a sport that normal children can do, that otherwise, if I didn't find out about this, I wouldn't be able to do it.
One thing these amazing kids get to experience is playing here at the Wachovia Center at a Phantoms game, a place where their heroes play.
How exciting. How exciting for them to go out on that ice in their sleds and overcome their disabilities and play with their heart, And there's such a big facility as this. That's awesome.
So, what does it take to be a sled hockey player?
It takes determination, wanting to do it, and believing that you can do it, not that you can't. You have to believe that you can and not put yourself down.
Truly amazing people that don't allow a disability.
So.
You did look a lot younger.
And they made me shave. I think that was always the Temple Update way is you have to be, I don't know if it still is, but you have to be clean shaven. And so they made me shave, and then that doesn't happen as often now that I'm behind the camera.
Yes, and you made the switch from wanting to be on camera behind the camera. Why did you switch and now you're producing instead of being on air?
Yeah, I think it's so tough to get on the. I think for me, it was a tough decision because I think I did enjoy being on camera. I did enjoy telling those stories and being the voice of those stories, especially when I had to do highlight packages or features or something like that. It was nice to have a voice, but I think for me it was just really. I was given a great opportunity to go to ESPN and be behind the camera, and when ESPN calls your number, you don't tell them, oh no, excuse me, I want to be in front of the camera. You jump at it, and you know that's the best of the best of people behind the cameras, and for me that kind of made the decision for me, and I always had I think for me as long as you're producing good content. It doesn't matter if you're in front of the camera or behind the camera, as long as you're producing good content, and that was always important to me. And I feel like I've done that in my career, and that's why I've always felt like I'm not missing out on the other side of it.
Right, and you went to ESPN, but before that you had a lot of internships at Temple, and that in addition to schoolwork. Tell us a little bit about where all you interned, because I know it was a lot of places while you were here, and you're smiling and laughing now because I know you're saying you remember being busy all the time.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I had great mentors, and they all told me, intern. Well, I took them to heart. I started out, my first internship was my sophomore year at Fox Philadelphia, 29, doing their sports internship, logging tapes, doing that. I followed that up with a internship with the Philadelphia Phantoms in their public relations department. I knew for me, I always wanted to get both sides of the media and the people that control the media. I think it's important to know where both sides are coming from. I think it definitely helped me. And then after that, I wanted to get a small market feel because I still had those thoughts of being that on-camera guy, and this is the sports. And I knew you had to start in a small market. And plus, I think for anyone, a small market is a great place to get a hands-on experience. So I went to WHP CBS in Harrisburg, which was a fun commute during the summer, but it was worth it because I learned so much. Because like I said, in a small market, smaller market, it's not a small market, but in a smaller market, I got to really do a lot of field work. I got to do a lot more editing. I got to do a lot more writing because the staff there is not as big as a Fox 29. After that, I then moved to an all sports. I felt like I needed to get, I knew I wanted to go into sports broadcasting and news, local TV. You're given 2 minutes, and that's all you're given, and it's great and it's fine. But I wanted to get an all sports kind of feel, like an ESPN kind of feel. So I went to Comcast Sportsnet Philadelphia, where I interned there for a semester, which was great. It was really give you the all sports all the time. It's definitely an all sports feeling, and being in the area of the arenas and everything like that was great. And then my senior year, I decided I hadn't done enough internships, right? I needed some more. So then I went to the Philadelphia Flyers, where I was, again, PR intern. I think for me, it was just the icing on the cake. I learned the TV side. I knew the Flyers. I had worked for the Phantoms and then done some games day stuff for the Flyers. And I knew I didn't want to leave Philadelphia until I experienced the Flyers. They were my team. They were who I grew up loving. And I couldn't leave Philadelphia if I was, after my senior year, and not taken advantage of the opportunity that I had, knowing the people in charge. And so I did an internship with them, and that was the last one. Before then, I had to go into the real world.
Right, and I know when we were talking previously, and you're talking about looking back, and there was that moment of you knew that you were in the right place and you were doing what you wanted to do, and you had that moment of realization. And you mentioned that took place during that year with the Flyers.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it hits you. You know it when it hits you. And I think for me, like, when I was working and being around the Flyers all the time, and being around hockey, and being around the media, and being around, the players, and knowing them, and knowing the media, and knowing what goes into being in this industry, I just knew that at that time, just being around it every day, I knew that this is what I was going to do. I knew that I could be happy doing this every day. And I could be happy waking up in the morning and saying, all right, here we go, another day of this, because that's what you're going to have to deal with your whole life. If you wake up in the morning and you say, this is what I have to do, you're going to have to do that. And I think being around that team and being around the idea of covering something every day, every waking hour, was amazing. And I was glad I experienced it, and it really reassured me that I was doing the right thing.
Well, it helped that the Flyers went on a deep playoff run that year, right?
Yeah, that's where the beard started. This is the one time Temple Update let me have a beard. It's my camera one. Here we go. The one time Temple Update let me have a beard was during that 2004 Stanley Cup run, Eastern Conference Final run, where we made it to Game 7 and Flyers made it to Game 7 and lost to the Tampa Bay Lightning. I wear one ring because I'm married, but then it was really disappointing because they were saying if we did win something, we all would have had rings. So it would have been nice to have another ring to be like, yeah.
Well, hopefully, for the current Flyers interns, that might happen. Hopefully.
Possibly. Let's go. Yeah. Let's hope.
But after you moved on from the Flyers, where did your life take you then? Fill in the gaps between, being a Flyers intern and now producing for national NHL network.
Yeah. It went fun. It really did. It was a lot of fun. After my senior year, I was offered some positions in Philadelphia. But my best friend from high school goes to me and he says, listen, Matt, you can live in Philadelphia your whole life. You went to college in Philly, you lived in Philly, or you can come with me. I'm house sitting this place in Santa Monica, California for a month. Come out and live with me in Santa Monica, California for a month and house sit. I was like, and I thought to myself, I'm like, you know what? Why not? This is the time to do it. I think I had applied to ESPN at that time. I had not heard from them. I knew that was something that they kept on telling me, oh yeah, you're on the list, you're on the list. So I was like, you know what, why not? For, a couple months, a month here, a month of that. Well, that month turned into 5 months. And I got to do, luckily, like I said, it's all about making good connections and working hard and making sure these people know that you are a hard worker and want to be successful in this industry. Made some great contacts at Fox Sports, so I worked out for them, and Fox Sports is based out of LA, so I worked for them for a little bit. Got to work on reality TV for a little bit as a little PA and associate story writer for Complex Malibu. Great, successful one run on Fox. But yes, and they do have writers for reality TV, everyone. Don't be fooled. And then I also got to work for America's Next Top Model. So that was not bad at all. And, and then I got the call in September of '04 that ESPN did want me to join the ranks of Bristol, Connecticut's finest. So then I went back from LA, moved to Connecticut, and then spent 7 years at ESPN, worked my way up the ladder, the corporate ladder, and worked very heavily. I was told like I said, I've always had some great people give me great advice, and I was told, work on NFL. NFL is where, ESPN people get noticed, and got to work a couple seasons on Monday Night Football, which was great. Got to travel, see a bunch of different stadiums. It was nuts. I got to pack up, go to one city, come home for a couple days, pack up, go to another city. Then I worked on Sunday NFL Countdown, which is the #1 show. Maybe College Game Day, I don't know. I mean, kind of both really good shows. Don't want to put one out of the other. And had some great experiences doing features and doing writing, and also worked on Outside the Lines and you name it. I think that's the beautiful part of being part of Bristol U is, you get your hands on a lot of different things, and then spent 7 years there, and then finally got the call to work in the sport that I love, and again, couldn't pass up that opportunity.
No, absolutely. And Matt, I have to say thank you so much for coming on the show today. We really appreciate it. I know I learned a lot just from talking to you, so thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
All right, well, special thanks to Matt Sitkoff once again for joining us on this edition of Temple Flashback. I'm your host, Lindsay Bittler. For the rest of the TUTV crew, stick around next time.